This is Liz Lawless, your host for Wild West Diversity, where we tell the rarely and untold stories of multicultural contributions to the settling of the American Wild West. Each Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, we'll be sharing a historical legend and a living legend. Someone from history and someone living that Western lifestyle today, keeping it alive for the future generation. We hope you'll join us on Thursday. If not, we'll see you on the trail. Hello. So this is your host, Liz Lawless for Wild West Diversity. And today, this is episode 66. So we are moving right along here. We started the show over a year ago because we wanted to tell the rarely and untold stories of multicultural contributions to the settling of the American Wild West. A lot of these stories you won't have ever heard. The people that we're interviewing are not people that you're going to know for the most part. You know, occasionally we have somebody like Obababa Tunda on, who obviously is a worldwide known actor, and he's also a horse whisperer. We may have a rodeo cowboy like Charlie Sampson, who was the only African-American to win a bull riding championship. And so there will be a few folks you know, but we're talking about historical legends and living legends. And women especially, a lot of women's stories have gotten left out of those history books. So that's a big part of what we're doing. And so that's why I'm very excited today to be talking with my friend Ruby Burke. She goes by R.Y.Burke when she writes, especially children's books. And so we're going to be talking all things horses today. So yeah, I'm glad y'all are here. And if you have any questions or comments, just put them in the chat down below. And Russ, our producer, will acknowledge those for us. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, we're here every Thursday at 5 p.m. from 5 to 5:30. And you can go to Wild West Diversity on YouTube and find all of our previous interviews with these wonderful cowboys and cowgirls and chefs and barbecue folks and just all kinds of retail outlets, Western wear stores, and all of that kind of stuff. So, all right, well, let's bring Ruby on, and we're going to be, like I say, we're going to talk about horses today and see a little bit about her backstory. How are you doing, Ruby?
I'm fine, Liz. Thank you for having me. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm sorry it took us so long to get on here. I keep thinking about you for the other show, and I don't really think about you for the Wild West Diversity, but I know that one of your great books, your children's book, is about horses. And so obviously that's a subject near and dear to our Western hearts here. And if it wasn't for horses, we wouldn't have that Wild West experience, because that's how most people got around back in the early days. So tell us how you got involved with the horses.
Well, I was young, and in my neighborhood, they used to have the horses, the policemen on the horses.
Oh,
And
okay.
so when they used to come, I was always the first one in line, can I ride? Can I ride? Can I ride? And then just over the years, I just love horses, and
Yeah.
just the feel of their coats. It's just so soft and so silky, and
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
I love that. And I got to plait the tail of the
Right. The hair. Yeah. Braid their hairs and stuff so they look fancy.
yeah. I just it's just, I don't know. I can't say a hobby. It's just I just love being around horses.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was Cleo's thing. You know, he wasn't really rodeo at first. It was horses. He just loved the horses. And that's another reason he was a calf roper, because it was always that interaction with a horse. It was
Mhm.
every day he got to interact with a horse and get on the horse and ride. Whereas when you did bull riding or bareback or something like that, you know, he didn't have to have a horse, but he always wanted a horse, even though when he was young, you know, nobody in his family rodeoed, and nobody in his family had horses. He had to like walk down a mile or two to a ranch and
Yeah.
to be around the horses. So that's interesting. So we have mounted police here in Dallas that do a lot of events, and they work downtown and areas like that. So that's cool that you had that experience. We're able to meet law enforcement that way, because it's a different experience, isn't it?
It is. It is. I like to ride. I'm not really good at it. The horse has to know the way to go.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But it doesn't stop me from wanting to get on and ride. And so,
Yeah.
I do it a couple of times a year,
Uh-huh.
and it's
Uh-huh.
just fun. They just go along the trail. It's
Right.
pretty
Yeah, because y'all got great trails over there, right? Because you what, Washington D.C., Baltimore, where you at?
in Maryland. Yep, right
Maryland.
over there.
Okay. Yeah. So huge, yeah, huge horse country and trails and things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
And people don't really think about that as much, because there's not a lot of rodeo over there, but
Right.
there is a huge equestrian and all the other, the hunter jumper and horses like that and the show horses and Tennessee
Mhm.
walking horses. We had one of our guys, Doug Sharp, on, who's a trainer, of horses, and that's what he said. He said, "Why drive a Cadillac when you can drive a BMW or a Ford or whatever?" Thinking that like a quarter horse, like a rodeo horse is when his mind was a Ford or a or a Chevy, and he was wanting to drive a BMW or
Yeah.
Porsche or something. But yeah, but horses they're so pretty and they're all different and they're like
Mhm.
people, they're like kids. They have different personalities too,
Yeah.
don't they?
Yes. I go to a place called Assateague Island in
Uh-huh.
Virginia, and that's where they do the pony runs every year.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yep.
Sure.
And I just love going there because basically that's what's there, horses.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So you get to play, I guess rub the ponies and play with them and feed them.
Yeah.
So, I love
Yeah,
that.
and it's really a great disciplinary thing too. I mean, it helps kids so much, to take care of an animal. And they do some with dogs and cats and fishes, but a horse is such an interesting animal because I think they have that extra sensitivity too to people, don't you? I mean, they know, I think, when somebody is having emotional issues or when somebody's sad or when somebody's afraid or whatever. And we've just seen so much good work, especially with kids with disabilities, our veterans coming home and when they're involved in some kind of a horse, activity.
Hmm.
And even the prison system, when those prisoners get to work with horses, it's just a huge difference, in their lives. It makes them want to turn their lives around, or it makes them want to, do something so they can be around these horses. And so it's pretty amazing, these creatures that they are. Well, what's your favorite breed? Do you have a favorite breed or color, or is it anything?
I don't. It's just the horse itself.
Right,
I
right.
don't have a favorite breed or color. I just like being around them. And
Yeah.
you're right. I went with a group,
Uh-huh.
and it was several people who were afraid of the horse, and it's funny that the horses really can tell, you know. And they had us put, the sugar, I think it was, in our pockets. Some of us did, and
Uh-huh.
and the horse would walk over it. It could tell who had it in their pockets, and so that was nice. But you could tell the
Uh-huh.
different personalities of the different horses. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, and my brother had thoroughbred horses for years and raced horses, and so here in Texas, because we're in Texas, and like I say, they were each one of them was different. Some of them loved to run, some of them, some love just be out in the pasture and kick it up and chase around and but they were, like you say, they were all different, but they were all just beautiful. So how did you get to writing the children's book? Is it because you loved horses, or is it how did that come about? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it is because I loved horses. My kids
Uh-huh.
were in school, and I used to volunteer a lot at the schools. And
Uh-huh.
so my one of my jobs was to tell them stories and
Right.
read them stories. And when
Uh-huh.
I was looking at the books and everything, and I would start reading, and some of them, it didn't hold their interest.
Right.
And so I just made up this story about a horse. And every time I went, they would say, "And tell us what the horse did this time." And
Yeah.
so I would just come up with these stories about Halloween and how they dressed up, and Christmas, and how the horse dressed up. So every time I told them a story, I would just, make up something. One of the
I love it.
teachers, yeah, one of the teachers said, you should turn that into a book. And I thought about it, and of course, it was years later that I actually sat down and
Uh-huh.
just wrote out the book. And it was just
Right.
from the stories that I had told the children, you know.
Yeah, that's great. And that's the thing, when we talk to authors all the time, and people that are listening or watching, we want you to know that you can do it your way. There's not just one way to write a book. There's not one way to write a children's book. Yes, there are certain kind of standard things that you want to do, like sizes and images and color, and if they're younger children, you want to write less rather than more. If they're older kids, you do maybe chapter
Hmm.
books, but
Hmm.
overall, it's, you tell your story the way you want to tell your story.
Hmm.
And, somebody's going to be engaged and captured by that. And I'm sure every time you go somewhere with this book, people go, read that to us, or where can we get a copy? So we're going to tell you where you can get a copy. So you can get a copy on Amazon. You can also go to Ruby's website. We're going to be putting that up, and that'll be in your show notes. And stuff like that. And if because we pulled this down as a podcast too, Ruby, I'm going to go ahead and spell your name for them. So it's R.Y. Burke, Burke. So if you're looking for Yap-Yap, the talking horse, you can find that there. You can find that on her website at rubyburke.com. Is that right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Good. So anyway, and I think there's kind of a funny story about the name of the this book too, isn't there?
Yes, actually it was named for my daughter because she talks so much.
Imagine that. Imagine somebody
Yes,
that talks too much.
yes.
That'd be my problem.
We called her we just started calling her Yap Yap because she talked so much.
Uh-huh.
And because I made in my story the horse just talked so much
Uh-huh.
that I decided to call it Yap Yap the talking horse. So yeah,
That's great. That's great.
that's
I
the
love it.
story.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Mhm.
But the story is actually it's about a little boy though, really, isn't it? And the
Yeah.
horse and their adventures
Mhm.
more than a little girl. But I just had
Yes.
to love that story. I just had to have you share that because that's it. You can get your inspiration from anywhere. It might come from your
Yes.
kids. It might
Absolutely.
come from something you saw or read or heard or a song. I mean,
Yes.
and creative inspiration, you just got to let it flow, and you got to just open your mind to letting the thoughts flow and the ideas come to you. Just and people
Hmm.
ask us all the time, well, how do you write a book? Where do you start?
You know, for me, I would say you start with your imagination, and everybody has an imagination, and that starts the story, and then you can just continue from there.
Yeah,
Because that's how I started. I just started with, and I guess because I was watching the children, and I love being around children and watching them learn.
mhm,
That's one of the things that I do. I mentor to basically young ladies, but
mhm,
I like to see children learn. And when I see a child that's not interested or looks like their mind is somewhere else,
mhm.
I try to do something or bring something to them. And one of the things, animals. And then I found out that horses, and it was great for little boys and little girls. They just love to think about horses. And, you know, it would have been nice to be able to get someone to have a horse come up to the school, but
Right,
couldn't
right. Yeah,
happen.
that's it. That's it. And we're lucky that in Texas that we can do that occasionally. It's harder now than it used to be. 10, 15 years ago, we did it pretty
Mhm.
regularly. And then, of course, COVID hit. Now with security issues,
Yeah,
it's a lot harder for us. But,
yeah,
every once in a while, we can still, if they're having some kind of a farm day or a cowboy day and they all dress up, in their
yeah,
cowboy outfits, they let us come out
yeah.
occasionally. But But luckily, because we have the rodeos here, we can still engage with kids a little bit.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's it. And other people ask us too, well, how do we get our kids to read? We'll give them something they're interested in. If like
Really,
you say, if they're interested
really.
in animals or
Mhm.
dogs, give them a dog book. If they're interested in horses,
Mhm.
talk about horses. If they're interested in cars, I mean, you can tell because
Yes.
you'll see them either looking at something or watching
Mhm.
something or playing with something. It might be trucks, or big toy dump trucks, whatever it
True,
is.
true.
And
And that's,
that's how you get them.
yeah, and that's another thing. Because they like the book, there's a workbook in the back of it.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
There's different things different activities that they can do,
Hmm.
and it comes from, first of all, you have to know the book. Then when you go to do the activities in the back, you'll know the answers.
Right.
So, and if they don't, just look back in the book and read over again. So, I like that part of it too, that it's also a workbook. And they don't see it as work.
Right.
Even though
Yeah. They
they're
see it as
learning.
play.
Yes,
Yeah.
even though
And
they're
that's
learning.
it.
Mhm.
So if you're listening and you're an author and you want to write something for children, I mean, Ruby just dropped a gold nugget. Okay, that's a gold nugget. Put some activities, a coloring sheet, a multiple choice, matching, some kind of something that the
Mhm.
kids can do that'll extend their education and their information and their knowledge. And, you can come up with all kinds of things for that. And so I think that's a great idea. And I know that was really helpful. And I know really people were, you know, uh, surprised and loved it, the fact that they, once they read the book, oh, now they get to do these
Yeah.
activities. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's a key thing, if especially for longevity too, if you want people to keep coming back, to your to your stuff and reading. And that's
Yeah.
the thing, I mean, when kids read a story, right, they wanted to hear that horse story every time you came, didn't they?
They did. That's, that was their thing. So, what did Yap Yap do this week? You know?
Yeah, yeah, because he was real in their mind, and he was
Yeah.
out there having adventures, and I'm sure they wanted you to come back and tell them, about what he
Yes.
did this week. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
So, and that is the thing, and especially today, it wasn't as much like when you produced this book, because it's been a few years, but I know you did a revision of it. But now the series is a big thing. I mean, that is one of the major things that we've seen in publishing. Have you seen that too yourself?
Yes.
Just in the last couple of years, Amazon added a series thing where you can
Yeah.
actually set up your series ahead of time. Well, they didn't have that for 15 years.
Right.
That's something that they've just done in the last
Mhm.
few, couple of years. So
Mhm.
so when you're thinking about writing, think about what the next story is. What's the next thing you want
Mhm.
people to do? So I think that's great. And well, tell us what else. So you've got some other books, but let's talk about your mentoring first, though, because you
Oh,
do. We met, I guess, through
yeah.
Sisters in Harmony, which is
Yeah.
fabulous nonprofit organization that's actually international. Y'all are like all over the world. So
Yeah.
so tell us a little bit about that and your why that's so important. I think to
The mentoring program.
right. Uh huh.
Oh, yes. Um, it's important because I was I'm going to say, a survivor of domestic violence.
Yeah.
And I always feel that if you could teach young girls about self-esteem,
Yeah.
self-awareness, bullying,
Uh huh.
things like
Yeah.
that, then they can grow up and they can feel that self-worth. And
Right.
so I created a PowerPoint presentation and a workbook because
Mm-hmm.
I used to go around to the schools and they had different programs. So they would call me in and
Mm-hmm.
I would talk to young ladies at risk. And so I would present them with the books and then I would do a PowerPoint presentation. And it
Mm-hmm.
had pages in there that they could write down, their feelings and their thoughts. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the one of the things that I would do with them was say, look at the person next to you and tell me what you think is pretty about them, what you like about them.
Mhm.
And that tells you a lot about the person who's talking, because those are things that they think they don't have. And so it's a really good program. I like it
Uh-huh.
because I had a little girl, quick story. I had a
Uh-huh.
little
Yeah.
girl, and she was 6 years old, and she was kind of heavy, and the kids teased her.
Right. Yeah.
And in class, at the end of class, I asked if anybody had anything they wanted to say or wanted to do. She raised her hand and she said she wanted to sing, and the kids laughed. And I had called her up and I told her, if you do you are you sure? She said yes. She faced me and I told her, if you want to actually sing, you have to face your audience. And she was scared, but she sat there. This little girl had a beautiful voice,
But
and the
yeah.
kids were laughing. And when she started singing, they stopped and they paid attention. And the teachers from the hall came in to see who was singing.
Uh,
And about 6 months after that, I went back up to the school, and the teachers were telling me how much she had grown and flourished, and she had friends now, and the kids played with her and talked to
yeah.
her, and she wasn't like an outcast anymore.
Right.
And
Anymore.
it just made me cry every time I think about it. But
Well, for sure, and because it is so hard for kids today, and kids are
Mhm,
cruel, and they just don't know any better, and but like you say, if you can get them to acknowledge, one thing good about them too, and
mhm,
something they love, or something like you say,
yeah,
and one thing they, maybe they can't change, like you say, how tall they are, their skin color, their
mhm,
hair, or whatever,
mhm,
but there are things that they can change and that they can learn and do, and so
mhm,
it's so important, especially today, for young women and earlier. I
yeah,
mean, we had the struggles, but I don't think our struggles happened till later.
right,
We were maybe
right,
teenagers, or like you
mhm,
say, going into college, and
mhm,
and like you say,
yeah,
it's just the fact that they don't know they have choices.
right,
And especially if
exactly.
they have a particular situation or
Mhm,
circumstance that they, grew up with. And the shame of it is not all of us do grow up with parents and situation and home lives
right,
that are good. Some people are blessed with that and some people aren't. And
yeah,
so just the fact that you can teach them about choices,
mhm,
and what's a good choice, what's a bad choice, what are
yeah,
some of the
mhm,
signs, like you
yeah,
say, you know what some of the signs are, of risk or danger, and
mhm,
how do you avoid that, especially today, and obviously social media, and
I know.
kids on their phone, they're younger and younger.
Mhm,
We've got one six, 17 and 18 and 19, 17 and 19, and so it's like, you do have to have those conversations with them,
yeah,
so
they're
that,
so young. And,
yeah,
a lot of people don't want to have those conversations with young kids, but it's either you tell them, you know, facts, or
right,
they learn something different from their friends.
right.
So you have to teach kids young now.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was like we're doing late elementary and middle school. We went from high
Hmm.
school to middle school, and now we're teaching like fourth grade. For certain behaviors and certain
Hmm.
choices and things.
Yeah.
And so, we hate to see that, but I'm so grateful, like you say, for
Mhm.
people like you, Ruby, who are willing to commit your time and energy to these young women,
Yeah.
who need that friend, who need somebody to look up
Mhm.
to and to say, oh, if she can do it, did it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
That's a whole part of us going out to
Hmm.
schools with black cowboys.
Yeah.
We want urban kids to see somebody that looks like them.
Hmm. Yes.
Because when they see somebody that looks like them, they go, "Oh, well, Cleo did that. Maybe I could do that too."
Mhm.
They get the ideal and they imagine the thought in their head. And if you can get that positive thought in their head and then give them some ways to move toward that, that dream, then it's just so much better. It's so much easier for them to resist maybe temptation.
Mm-hmm.
If, like you say, your little girl that wants to be a singer, if she really has that dream to be a singer, well, you're certain things you're going to have to do.
Yes.
Like you say, you're going to have to get some confidence. You're going to have to sing in front of people. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have to not get your feelings hurt every time if somebody doesn't like your song, because not everybody's going to like everything you do, but enough people will like it
Mm-hmm.
that it'll be worth it, to you, and you'll eventually find your audience. And we tell
Mm-hmm.
writers the same thing, don't you? Tell, because I know you do some book publishing and some book workshops too. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
I do. I when I talk to people, a lot of people want to know how I got started. You
Mhm.
know, ooh, the the good and the bad.
Right, right.
You have to watch out for, you know, who you get to publish your book. Make
Yeah.
sure what you want to say is what's in the book,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of people that want to change it. I have one of the things that's in another book of mine was anywho. And every time they did the edits, they changed it. And every time they
Right.
changed it, I changed it back.
Back.
And
Right.
so,
Right.
like I said, it's certain things you have to be careful, because people know that that's someone's dream,
Mhm.
and they'll prey on that dream.
Right. They'll take advantage of you. Yeah, we do the same thing. We say
Yeah.
always talk to at least two or three, three or
Hmm.
four people,
Yes.
get referrals or
Hmm.
references, because and if somebody comes to you promising you all kinds of stuff,
Hmm.
look at it with a grain of salt. We're not saying they're trying to take advantage of you, but if somebody calls you up out of the blue,
Hmm.
they're probably looking to take advantage of you. And
Right.
if you've never met them before or whatever. And yeah, we have people call us all the time. Oh, I got this from so and so, and they want me to do it. Then come to find out, they only want them to pay 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever, and they'll help them do all this stuff. Well, if you're going to do that, it's fine, but tell people that up front.
Yes.
You know,
Another thing I tell people is that when they have an idea, if you can, even your phone has a little recorder on it.
uh,
Say what it is.
yeah.
That way you won't forget it, because I've had so many ideas and I have like built a whole story. And when I get home, I'm thinking, what was that story? I can't
It was
remember.
great. It was great. Now I can't remember what it is. I know
Yes.
it. Yeah,
Yes, I
it's
tell
true.
everyone, if you can, when it comes in your head, record it. Just say it into the
Right.
recorder. You can
Yeah.
switch the words around on paper. Once you put it on paper or on a computer, you can switch them around to make them,
Yeah.
because you may tell what happened at the end, and
Uh-huh.
then at the end you tell what happened at the beginning. You can always switch it around, but if you record it, it's
Yeah.
there, you know.
And yeah, and you can re-listen to it. It was so funny.
Mhm.
Actually last week I had a guy, text me or left me a message because I was actually on another call, but he said I think I want to get me a typewriter and start writing this stuff down like you told me. And I was like, I don't even know. I'm thinking, Brian, I don't even know where you would find a typewriter. Maybe a pawn shop or something. I called him back and I got his voicemail because I'm sure he's working. I said, Brian, on your phone, just get the audio, download a free audio app to your phone. There probably is one already on your phone. Just find it and just talk. Just tell your story, just like you told it to me the other night at the coffee shop. Just, which is kind of what I told him when we were there. But now, it's been longer than that. It's actually probably been 4 or 5 months since we had the
Yeah.
conversation. But yeah, and that's it. You don't even have to write. You
Right.
can record it and then have
Mhm.
it transcribed, with
Mhm.
all this AI stuff that we've got going on.
Right.
There's so
Mhm.
many platforms that'll
Yes.
do that for you now. And then,
Mhm.
or like you say, go and interview other people. If you don't think
Mhm.
you're great, you don't have enough knowledge,
No,
somebody
yeah.
out there has the knowledge. And most people are pretty nice. Most people don't
Mhm.
mind sharing their knowledge if especially, it makes them feel good to think that somebody thinks they know something.
Right, right. And and I say it because I've missed my opportunity several times
Uh-huh.
because one of my next book, because I'm doing a series, a history series,
Oh, okay, great,
um,
great.
for kids,
Uh-huh.
and one of them is the Tuskegee Airmen, and I spoke with the gentleman, and I was supposed to go to New York to see him, and pandemic hit, and he passed away, and I just
Yeah.
never got that opportunity. So I'll say, if the opportunity arises, take it.
Yeah,
Take
do it
the
now.
opportunity. Do it now.
Yeah.
Don't wait. You know.
Yeah, another great nugget Ruby's dropping here. So I hope y'all were listening. And God, man, the time goes so fast. But
Oh,
for sure, we're at 30 minutes here, and I'm always bad. I always run over, and Russ slaps me on my hand,
oh.
with like the ruler. But yeah, but then tell us one more time, how people can get in touch with you. They can go to your website, right? They can follow you on social media.
Yes, you can follow me at Ruby Burke Author or Ruby Burke on Facebook. You can
Mhm.
go to my website, www.rubyburke.com. Very easy,
Yeah.
not challenging at all. So, definitely, if you want to get in touch with me, you can get in touch with me either way. You can even email me
Mhm.
at burkeruby@yahoo.com. No
Okay.
spaces, no dots.
Okay, so great. So that's Burke Ruby. So it's BURKERUBY at yahoo.com.
Mhm.
And I'm spelling that because a lot of our listeners are going to just hear this as a podcast, because we'll pull this episode down and it'll go out to our 12 or 13 podcast channels as
Mhm.
well. So, well, Ruby, it's been so fun to talk about your Yap-Yap, your horse book, and about horses with you. And like I say, for sure, we'll have you come back and talk on our author show, because I know that's a very dear to your heart, helping these women and telling the stories of these women who have survived devastating experiences. And we need hope, especially today. It's just, there's so many people hurting. And so I appreciate that you were courageous enough to share your story, because I know you probably had to share your story first
I did.
before you are now able to get other people, to encourage other people to share their stories.
Yeah,
And that's how we heal. We heal through telling our stories, I think. And
yeah.
so I appreciate that very much. Well, we hate to cut it short, but we're going to have to. So this has been Liz Lawless, your host for Wild West Diversity. This is episode 66 with author Ruby Burke. Go to her website or Amazon and find her book, Yap-Yap, The Talking Horse. You're going to really enjoy that, and the workbook and the activities at the end. So if you've got young children or kids or grandchildren, go get that book today. Well, thanks so much, Ruby. We appreciate you,
Thank
and
you.
we'll be talking with you soon.
Yes. Thank you.
Hello, this is Liz Lawless, your host for Wild West Diversity, where we tell the rarely and untold stories of multicultural contributions to the settling of the American Wild West. Each Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, we'll be sharing a historical legend and a living legend. Someone from history and someone living that Western lifestyle today, keeping it alive for the future generation. We hope you'll join us on Thursday. If not, we'll see you on the trail.